Our friend from the Tampa Bay Times, Rick Stroud, is back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Rick? Sorry we're a little late. We were talking about Groundhog Day and what day you'd want to relive. You know,
if we could change it, Rich, I got one. I swear to God, this happened. One of my better friends at the time, best friends, whatever, made a play on a girl I was dating.
Yep.
And then we got in a fight, and he broke my nose.
Weird.
And then that night, my dog died. It was like a country music song. It was the weirdest thing. But literally, that was a day I'd like to relive.
What? No, my God, you don't want to relive that, Rick. There's going to be something.
I want to change the outcome. I don't know if I could save the dog, but I want to change the outcome.
Okay, all right, very good, understood. But I got to tell you, your nose looks great on the photograph we have up on the screen, just so you understand. It's all good. It's all worked out. I've met your wife. I know, your life looks great. All right.
No, everything's fine.
Great, fantastic. So, were you? Let's just put it this way: were the Bucs caught surprised by Brady's video yesterday?
I don't know about the video. They were told 2 hours or so before that. I think they're surprised by the timing. I think they thought, he had said he was going to take a little more time this year than he did, and he actually, it was Groundhog Day, right? February 1st again. So from that standpoint, maybe a little bit, and disappointed a little bit, but surprised. I mean, Rich, if you lived what Brady experienced, and like we saw him every day, and I know people in the organization were much closer to it than even we were, coaches and whatnot. It was a lot. It was, he suffered, and all that went on in his personal life, trying to prepare. The football team wasn't good enough for him to excel in a lot of areas, and it was just really a heavy lift. And I'm not surprised because we talked about this when I talked to you last time. I really think that maybe the best, possibly the only option, was going back to Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And he was disappointed in how things went, and probably disappointed a little bit in Todd Bowles, probably really disappointed in the offensive line. They fired a bunch of coaches. He'd have to come in, learn a new system. That's not a big deal. But, all that considered, was he going to go out west? According to his dad, I read a column in the Boston Globe where his dad said he decided a week ago. Well, that would have been before Brock Purdy got hurt. I obviously didn't change his mind. So, it seemed like he was sort of running out of options, and it was just a really, really hard year for him. So I'm happy if he's happy with his decision. It doesn't surprise me. People around him,
mm-hmm.
and I had written this, really thought he was going to play. They thought it was very likely he would play again.
So do we know what caused him to sit on the dune and flip the phone around and hit send on the video? Do we know at all, Rick? What do you think?
No, I'd love to be the person that was watching Tom Brady, like walking by. Hey, remember that day we saw him out? Yeah, he was actually retiring that day.
That's right. I was saying it's like some 75-year-old former teacher from New York who moved down there with his metal detector looking for some precious metals and like, oh my goodness, look who this is. Could be one of those.
Look like one take to me. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
No, I don't. Again, nothing Tom does is spontaneous, really, at this stage of his life. And I love the way he did it. I love that it was simple and less than a minute, and he let himself get emotional and into his feelings a little bit, so we could see that. But I don't know that there was an actual tipping point, so to speak. I just think that probably Rich, he probably was headed that way during the season. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll never go. I mean, you go back to the scene after the Ravens game.
Yep.
They had lost 2 games in 4 days, and they were 3-5. And honest to goodness, felt for the guy. I mean, he sat there literally in full uniform with his head between his legs and not talking, not acknowledging anybody. Blaine Gabbert was sitting there trying to talk to him, and didn't get up for like 20, 25 minutes. And then, the next day his divorce was final. He announced his divorce, and so. That was the low point. He certainly bounced back from that. When you saw the weight loss, you saw so much stress on this guy, and he battled, man. He just battled, and he got him in there. He got him back in the playoffs. This has been a magical run in Tampa. He said he wouldn't change anything. I think there's some things he definitely would change, especially in the last year. But
what are those?
I think we have to.
What are those, Rick?
Well,
What are those?
I think I think he would. I think he would probably want a better football team, and I don't listen. I'm not blaming those guys. I mean, I think Jason Light did whatever Tom sort of wanted him to do, but once Ryan Jensen went down, that took a huge bite out of their offensive line, and then you had the retirement of Ali Marpet. And listen, think about the teams he played for here in Tampa, but the ones he wound up playing with last year, no Gronk, no Antonio, and no AB, no Antonio Brown. I mean, regardless of his insanity at the end there, he was a hell of a player. No Ali Marpet. You can go down the line. They lost Alex Cappa to free agency. I mean, there's a lot of things that occurred, and that football team was not very good. And so I think he might have, misjudged what they were building. And there were some bad breaks along the way, with Godwin coming off an ACL, with Julio Jones getting hurt in the first week and all that stuff. But, yeah, I think he probably – and obviously he regrets having to, miss 10 days of training camp. I mean, that is not the best recipe to get, in sync with your receivers and some new guys that have come aboard. And it's just not the way Tom Brady works. It's just not the way he's prepared. So I think all of that is probably something he would change.
Tampa Bay Times, Rick Stroud, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's start turning the page here. Him retiring as a Buck. I know, Robert Kraft went on CNN today saying, I'd love to have him sign a one-day with New England. Normally that sort of formality is just done and written off, but there's some serious cap ramifications, right? Like let's talk about the unwinding of the Brady relationship in Tampa. What's the scoop there, Rick?
Well, I think there's a process at some point. He would probably have to, sign a 1 year kind of minimum deal. They got to move money, with the Bucs. He's got to go on a retirement list at some point. Mm-hmm. When that process is done, his $35 million, $11 million of it would count on this year's salary cap, $24 million on next year's salary cap if they wait until after June 1st to put him on the reserve retired list. And so I think he'll be agreeable to that. I don't get the whole ceremonial one-day contract business. In my mind, I don't think Tom thinks that's necessary. Mm-hmm. We'll see if he does that, to help his buddy Robert Kraft. But, yeah, procedurally, I think he's going to stay on the roster for a little while, even though he's announced his retirement to the world, just to give them some cap. It's similar to what Drew Brees did with the New Orleans Saints, when he bowed out to reduce their cap stress. So actually by retiring and not playing more, the Bucs will get some relief out of that rather than if he had gone somewhere else, it would have been the full $35 million.
And of course they'll seek it, right? I mean, and Brady's the type to make sure that they're not hamstrung or caught on a hook for it. And I guess the entire time with Brady, the journey, the trip, the venture, everyone knew that the clock would strike midnight at some point, and it appears to finally be doing so right now. Because the for now, the for good is not a for now. Last year kind of did still feel like a for now, like we couldn't believe it, and then he came back, as we all know. This for good seems real. So now, what's the plan? What do you got for me at quarterback for this team right now?
They don't have anybody. I mean, they got Kyle Trask, who's the only quarterback under contract. And, Kyle has been here 2 years trying to learn a system that he's no longer going to play in.
Wow. That's right.
He's not been a quick study anywhere he's been. He's always been that guy that had to grind his way to his starting job, whether it was at Florida or wherever. So, the plan before Tom unretired the first time was to bring Blaine Gabbert back and let him and Trask battle it out. That's why Arians bowed out, didn't want to leave him a bad team, whatever. I think now a lot will depend, Rich, on who they hire as an offensive coordinator. They've interviewed a lot of guys, like 7 guys. I think the guy that's probably the best for the job might be Todd Monken, although I'm not sure why he would leave Georgia after 2 national championships. But okay, he makes $2.1 million. If they gave him $3 million for 3 years, would that do it? I don't know. But the one thing I know about Todd is that he worked a year in Cleveland, loved Baker Mayfield, loves him. So do you go that route? Do you go the free agent? Let's see if we can catch lightning in a bottle, Geno Smith type thing, or do you swing for the fences, which is what the Glazers have wanted to do? They want to stay relevant, right? But at some point, you got to get your house in order too. So, if Derek Carr were to not be traded and becomes a free agent sometime before March, are you trying to get him? Or I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be traded to an NFC team, so that seems unlikely. There's just not a lot of great options. So, having said all that, there are guys out there that they can maybe live with that will, function with the football team. But the first thing is get the cap right. They don't pick. They have the 19th overall pick. They have to knock it out of the park in the draft somehow. You probably would want to maybe bring a quarterback with you. I mean, that's the other thing. Stetson Bennett was very functional in Monken's offense. You don't know if that would be an option for them later in the draft. So they're looking at everything and anything, but I tend to believe that they're also going to have to, like I say, get their house in order. But it was worth it, Rich. It was worth the ride, man. This was Brady's second act. He'll always be a Patriot, and he won all those Super Bowls and played all those years there. But it was a pretty damn good second act, and I think he enjoyed his time here. And if you look at what he did, he threw for 15 yards or something like that, and got him to the playoffs 3 years in a row, won 2 division titles and a Super Bowl. Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
It's spectacular. I mean, worth every moment, worth every
absolutely
ounce of getting him and, waiting out last year and, this past year and whatever the next iteration at quarterback is going to be, whoever it's going to be, worth every single dime or time spent or blood, sweat, or tear, all of it. I totally agree. But when you say big swing for the fences, I'll throw a name out. You tell me if this is totally insane or not. But, he wants to play in the state of Florida. He's from the state of Florida. I know it's not South Florida, it's Central Florida. What about going in the complete opposite direction and seeing if Lamar Jackson's available? And if the Ravens do want to somehow move on or they can't come to some agreement that this is hammered out for the next quarterback to be the exact stylistic opposite of Tom Brady. Any thoughts on that at all?
Well, I mean, he would definitely fall under the big swing category.
That's what I'm saying.
The biggest, right? I mean,
I'm kind of sitting here about what big swings. If they are interested in one, I think Rodgers never would the Packers want to trade him in conference.
Lamar Jackson makes sense because he's coming from the AFC.
Right.
And he's a Florida guy. If somehow they got stuck, you'd have to make that phone call, right? See where they're at, because, like I said, some of these coordinators they're looking at, like a Shea Tierney, for example. He's the quarterback's coach for the Giants. I mean, what did he do with Daniel Jones? That looked pretty good, right? So you can do some stuff depending on who you hire as a coordinator and make an offense that works for Lamar Jackson, no question about it. And look, there's still some pretty good players down here. Last time I checked, even though Mike Evans will be in his 10th year, which is hard to believe, Chris Godwin will be a year removed from the ACL injury. They've still got some guys, and that would be okay. If he did that, you'd still be calling me next year. That would be fun.
You know what? I knew you would say that. Look, Rick, you and I, just because Brady's not there doesn't mean that I'm like new phone who dis, with you, okay? Like, I am fascinated by the Buccaneers, no matter who is the quarterback, all right? You have my word, all right? I'm not going to be one of those like, look, man, thanks for the Brady years, but see you later. Trask, get out of here. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. I'm not going to do that.
I don't want I understand. We had a good time together for 3 years. We should stay in touch, absolutely, and I'm there for you, Rich, and hopefully they'll make this interesting. I hope they learn something from these Brady years and they can stay relevant. but there's only one GOAT, so it may not be as frequent. But yeah, absolutely. I hope we hear it from each other a lot. That'd
look, Rick, I think I called you when Winston was the quarterback, right? I mean, didn't I?
You did. I mean, you've never.
Did I?
I'm loyal, man. You'll never lose my number.
I mean, are you saying you wear the scars of the Sean King years still? I mean, is that what you're saying? Even though he did play in an NFC Championship game. You know what I mean?
Look, Winston was not an easy ride. There were 33 interceptions in there somewhere that I had to endure. And
that was the last year. That's why they went to Brady, right?
I know. Yeah, absolutely. And that was 5 years of my life that I will not get back. But then, for 12 years they didn't make the playoffs. So who am I to complain? I just, we had this carpet ride, and it'll always be part of the Tom Brady always be part of the Bucs lore. And listen, if they erect a statue of him, and I think they probably will, it better be not the classic quarterback pose.
Yes.
They need to have him tossing that Lombardi trophy over a stream of water to Cameron Brate, who, by the way, had two of the biggest receptions of Tom Brady's career. The last touchdown pass he ever threw, and the Lombardi trophy across the Hillsborough River. So there's a guy you need to talk to.
See, this is why I'm calling you. Or even if Josh Freeman comes out of retirement and takes the job, I'm calling you. Okay? You hear me?
Absolutely.
That's my word, and it is bond. It is a bond. Thanks for the call, Rick. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
All right. Talk to you in 10 years. Take care, Rick. Thanks for the call. It's Rick Stroud, everybody. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.